Sometime last week, I was meant to pick up two of my sons from work and then take them to a certain place to get something. And then my husband said, "Oh, I'm going that way. I'll pick them up and then I'll bring them home afterwards." So when my sons got back, I asked one of them, "Oh, so were you able to get what they needed to get?" And he said, "No, I was too afraid to ask Daddy in case he said no." And I was like, "What do you mean you were too afraid?" He was too afraid to ask Daddy to stop at the place. Really, what he was saying was like, I didn't want to bother him, so I didn't ask him, and then they just drove home. And so I remember my husband had the look like, if you had asked me, I would have stopped. But guess what? He didn't ask. And I find for a lot of people, we live our lives this way. A lot of people will tell you, "Oh, I don't know what God's plans for my life are. I don't know what God's purpose for me is. I have not found out what it is." And one big thing I want to just remind us of today is we need to be intentional about asking God what his plans and purposes for our life, because until we ask, we may never know. The word of God says, "Ask and you shall receive," which means every time you bring an asking, he would always reward you with the receiving. I remember when I was asking God, what are the things that you're calling me to do? He began to reveal those things to me. But until I asked him, I remember I said to him, "Oh God, why are you just telling me now?" He said, "But you never asked," which was true. There was also a time whereby my husband was, seeking God. "What else do you have for me in this season?" I remember God, as he began to reveal that to me, he said to God, "Well, God, why are you just telling me now?" And also God said to him, "But you never asked." So really, the word of God says, you have not because you ask not. So sometimes we don't have it because we're not asking. And so I want to encourage us today to be intentional about asking God what his plans and purposes are for our lives, per season, per time. If we don't know, all we need to do is seek him in the place of prayer and ask him, "Lord, can you reveal to me?" And guess what he would do? He always would reward us with the answer. So if you're someone saying to you, "I don't know what God's purpose for my life is, I don't know what God's plans for my life is," this is a great time to take away time and sit with your father and ask him. He's a father that gives good gifts. So every time you ask him, guess what? He's always ready to reward you with the answer. Have an amazing week ahead. And you can share this video with one or two people that you think it might be a blessing to as well. I'll see you next week.